Hey, hi all. Welcome to my YouTube channel. So today we'll compare SQL databases and NoSQL databases. We'll talk about differences among these two terminology. Okay, this session will be more focusing on differences. If you want to know more about SQL databases and NoSQL databases, I have created all together separate video for it. I'll provide link in the description box. If you want to know more about these things, please go ahead with those links. Okay, so this session will be more focusing on differences. Okay, so let's start the session, but before that, if you have not yet subscribed my channel, I would request that please go ahead and subscribe it, and if you like my videos, please hit the like button. That will motivate me in order to create more such videos. Okay, so let's start the session. So let's try to understand what is SQL. So SQL stands for structured query language. Okay, it supports relational databases. Okay, using SQL you can write any sort of complex queries. You can design like any sort of complex schemas. Okay, it follows structure database. Okay, it means you can store data in the form of rows and columns. Now let's talk about its characteristics. Okay, the first one is schema based. Okay, so SQL databases, they basically follows predefined schema. Okay, it means before inserting records into the table you should have a schema in place. Okay, without that you would not be able to insert record within the database. Okay, so it follows a schema based structure. Then we have asset transactions. Okay, so SQL database, it basically supports all the asset properties. Okay, so what are asset properties? Your atomicity, consistency, isolation, durability, all these attributes, all these principles create asset properties. So SQL is adhere to asset transactions. Complex queries. Okay, SQL support writing complex queries. Okay, you can write any sort of complex queries involving joins, subqueries, different sort of aggregation functions. Okay, it's quite rich. SQL library is quite rich in order to write complex queries. Then we have scalability. Okay, so SQL support vertical scalability. Okay, it means you can keep adding resources into the server. You can keep adding different sort of hardware into the server in order to increase the server performance. Okay, it's basically follows vertical scalability. Now here are some examples of SQL databases. Your MySQL, Microsoft SQL Server, Oracle, PostgreSQL, all these falls under the category of SQL databases. Okay, so what is NoSQL databases? So NoSQL databases, these are basically designed to handle unstructured data or semi-structured data. Okay, these are mostly required for large scale application where like flexible data models are required or horizontal scalability is required. Okay, now let's try to understand what are these terminology. Okay, so unstructured data. Unstructured data is something which is not consistent in the format. Okay, it means that it does not have any predefined format. Okay, it can come in a different sort of like flavor. It may be in the form of images or maybe in the form of document. Okay, so it does not have structure kind of format. It cannot straightforward stored in rows column kind of structure. Like in the structured database we can store information in rows and column format. In unstructured data it's not that much easy in order to store those information in rows and column. Okay, so that is basically unstructured data. Now there is another term called horizontal scalability. Okay, if we talk about SQL databases, okay, so it offers vertical scalability. Okay, vertical scalability means that like you can keep adding IT resources or IT equipment in order to improve the performance of the server. Okay. On the other hand, horizontal scalability says that rather than adding more equipment into the same server, let's distribute the load, okay, and keep adding different servers. Okay, so adding different servers in a like network, it says horizontal scalability. Now, NoSQL stands for not only SQL. It doesn't mean NoSQL does not has SQL. It has SQL, okay, but it's having very limited features. You cannot write complex query in NoSQL databases. Okay, like in SQL databases, we can store information in the form of rows and columns within the table. But in NoSQL databases, we do have variety of data models. Okay, basically we can categorize information or data models into four categories under NoSQL databases: document oriented, key value pairs, column family, and graph data formats. Now let's talk about its characteristics. Okay, so first is schemaless. So NoSQL database don't require any sort of predefined schema. It's bit flexible in that way. Okay, dynamically, like it will keep capturing your data. So today, if you want to store 4 fields, it will allow you to store 4 fields. Tomorrow, if there is a need of adding additional fields, it will allow you to add additional fields. So in that way, it's bit flexible. Then we have eventual consistency. So NoSQL databases follows eventual consistency models. So its primary focus on availability and partition tolerance compared to consistency. Okay, so what it says that there may be some compromise in terms of consistency, but system should be 100% available. Okay, now what is partition tolerance? Partition tolerance says that if there is any sort of network partition or any sort of network failure, there should not be any compromise in terms of availability. Okay. Related to that, there is one theorem called CAP theorem. Okay, as per that, in a distributed database system environment, okay, objective of any database system to achieve 3 goals. One is consistency, then availability, and the last partition tolerance. So what CAP theorem says, in a distributed database system environment, achieving all 3 goals are quite impossible. So at max, one distributed database system can achieve 2 goals. Okay, so either consistency and partition tolerance, or availability and partition tolerance, or availability and consistency. Okay, so these are possible scenarios. So NoSQL databases follows availability and partition tolerance. Okay, data models. Okay, so NoSQL database basically supports 4 data models like document oriented, key value pair, column family, and graph format. Okay. Fourth one is horizontal scalability. Okay, so NoSQL databases are horizontally scalable. Okay, we can keep adding different servers and we can keep storing our data. Now here are some examples of NoSQL databases: MongoDB, Redis, Cassandra, Neo4j. All these are quite famous NoSQL databases. Okay. Okay, so now I think let's compare between SQL and NoSQL databases. Okay, so first one is data model. Okay, in SQL you can store information in the form of rows and columns. Okay, in NoSQL databases, basically we do have different sort of data model in order to store the document or in order to store the data, like documents is oriented, key value pair, graph databases, or column family. Okay. Then Another difference is schema. Okay. In SQL databases, we do have predefined schema. Okay, it follows structured databases. In NoSQL databases, it basically does not have any predefined schema. At runtime, you can you can make changes in the schema. You can keep adding fields in the databases, or if you want, you can remove it. So it's a dynamic in nature. Then another differentiator is scalability. Okay, in SQL or in structured databases, we do have vertical scaling. Okay, in NoSQL databases, we do have horizontal scaling. Okay. Then another difference is consistency versus availability. Okay, so in SQL, focus is more on like consistency. Okay, and it's adhere to asset properties. Okay, it follows all the integrity rules. Okay, in NoSQL databases, like offer like more availability and partition tolerance compared to consistency. Okay, so NoSQL databases says, okay, there may be some compromise in the consistency, but in availability and partition tolerance there should not be any compromise. Okay, partition tolerance is something like if there is any network partition or any sort of like network failure, there should be minimal impact on the database. Okay. So this is basically supported by NoSQL database. Now let's talk about use cases. Okay, SQL, like where you do require like relational database kind of model. Okay, you want to enforce different sort of integrity. Okay, complex transactions are there, complex query writing is there. In such cases, SQL is used. However, like where flexibility is required, scalability is required, unstructured data is there. Okay, in such cases, NoSQL databases are used. For real-time processing also, NoSQL database is recommended. So these are some pointers which says that what exactly the differences between SQL and NoSQL databases. Okay, so we'll wind here. Hope you liked the video. Okay, if so, please hit the like button. I'll come back to you with another interesting video. Till then, goodbye. Keep watching. Thank you.